Hey, let's look at Psalm 27 for just a moment today and track along with David's emotions as he is crying out to God and as he's describing the framework of his life. Psalm 27, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked, even mine enemies and my foes, come upon me to eat up my flesh, they stumbled and fell. Though an host should encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war should rise against me, in this will I be confident. One thing have I desired of the Lord, that will I seek after, that I may dwell in the house of the Lord forever, all the days of my life. I blew it. That I may dwell in the house of the Lord all the days of my life, to behold the beauty of the Lord and to inquire in his temple. For in the time of trouble he shall hide me in his pavilion. In the secret of his tabernacle shall he hide me, and he shall set me upon a rock. And now shall mine head be lifted up above mine enemies round about me. Therefore will I offer in his tabernacle sacrifices of joy. I will sing, yea, I will sing praises unto the Lord. One of the things I thought through yesterday after our time together, as I was meditating upon this verse, David in verse 6 is basically saying, though I'm surrounded with negative possibilities, I'm going to go about my normal routines of honoring and worshiping and serving and praising my God. In other words, I'm not going to let my circumstances override my core spiritual values. To me, I see this durable, this ongoing faith relationship that he has with God, in spite of the fact that he could be giving a lot of attention and worry and planning to the imminent threats that are surrounding him. He says, I just picture him leaving the palace and walking up the hill and up the steps or onto the hill where the temple is going to be built. It's not built yet. I picture him visiting the tabernacle. I picture him going through his routines of worship in spite of the fact that he's surrounded by enemies. Do you see the regularity there? Do you see the routines? Do you see the value of David saying, you know what? There's some things I can't fix and can't change. There are some imminent threats I'm dealing with, but there are some things I can do, some simple things I can do that cause my head to be lifted up to engage with the purposes and the assignments of my God. And that's how I'm living right now. I pray that's how you are living as well. And then verse 7, and we'll just start this and then we'll pick it up tomorrow. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me. So I am starting to muse on this verse. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. So first we see that David is praying. He's going to God. He's taking his burdens, he's taking his fears and his worries to God, and he's crying out to God. By the way, look at this, with my voice. He's talking out loud to God. And I don't have time to go down that road too far, but I think there's something really valuable and powerful in your prayer life about speaking out loud to God and crying out to him with your voice. The scripture speaks an awful lot about that verbal expression of prayer. Can you pray to God from your heart and thoughts and mind? Sure. But there's something about verbalizing it that is a profound impact to your spiritual journey and your spiritual life. So I encourage you not to just think your thoughts of prayer, but to speak them, okay? Whether alone or with someone or with your family, to speak out your prayer. So, hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. So David's committing, I'm going to cry out, I'm going to bring my requests and my burdens to you, God, and I'm asking you to hear. Now that strikes me because on one level, we know that God hears us, right? I mean, we know that. We know that as his children, because we have a grace mercy relationship with him through Jesus, we know he's always attentive to us. We always have his attention. There's never a moment, we saw that in Psalm 32, there's never a moment where he's not guiding us with his eye, where we're not the center of his focus. So what is David really getting at when he cries, hear me, O Lord? Well, I think there's two senses to it, and I think the clue to it is in the rest of the verse. Hear, O Lord, when I cry with my voice. Have mercy also upon me and answer me, okay? So I think that there's two senses to this. There is the first sense that, God, show me that you're listening, okay? Show me that you're receptive, that you're here, that I have an audience with you. Somehow, God, remind me that you are there, okay? And I think the second sense is, hear me in the sense of, would you grant my request, okay? So okay, think about it this way. If you are asking, you go to your employer, you go to someone in authority over you or that's influential in your life, and you have a request to present, you really want two things, okay? You want, number one, to be heard, okay? And then you're really hoping that after you are heard, that you will have made an adequate case for the response to come your way, okay? So you're hoping that your request will be heard and that it will be answered and responded to, okay? But I think this is a fair estimation. If I'm at least heard, I can pretty much deal with whatever answer that I receive as long as I know that I was heard, okay? That there's something very profound in being understood, being listened to, being empathized with, being, thanks for listening. You know, I have people say to me, sometimes they come to me with a problem I can't fix. I don't have any power over it. But they say, well, just thanks for listening. You know, thanks for caring. Thanks for being sensitive to this. Sometimes somebody on our team will come to me with a concern or a need, and I really can't fix it. But I can hear it, I can commiserate, I can, yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Why don't you try this? And they're always glad that I at least listened, right? So I think David is saying, God, give me the sense. There's an experience that he's asking for here. And it's not some epic supernatural experience he's asking for. It's really a personal, relational, intimate experience he's asking for. He's saying, Lord, I want to know when I cry out to you that you're hearing me. And so, God, would you have mercy on me? Would you be merciful? It's almost like he's saying, Lord, I know that I shouldn't maybe need this, but be merciful. Like, be patient with me. Indulge my need for this. Would you be merciful to me enough to answer me? And I think he's asking first, would you just show me in some way, give me some sense, point out make something evident in my life that I say, oh, God's listening, God's hearing me, okay? And then I think, of course, he's asking, God, would you answer my request as well? Now, let me talk to you about this for a minute before we wrap up today. You know, God speaks primarily through his word, right? But there's no doubt that on top of his word, he builds all kinds of nuanced ways that he reveals himself to us in a given day, personally. And this is intricately personal. And don't worry, I'm not getting Pentecostal. I'm not talking about sensationalism. I'm talking about little ways, circumstantial, relational. Maybe it's a word. Maybe it's something said in one of these devotions or something you received in the email, something you heard in a song. It could be circumstantial. It could be from his word. It could be from a person. But some little way that in particular, you were talking to God about this. You were needing something from God. And maybe he hasn't fulfilled your request, but he has let you know unequivocally that he is hearing you, that he is with you, that he's there. Now, this happens to me in thousands of little ways, but they are so aligned and they're so particular that it could only be God, okay? And I hesitate to even go down the road of giving you examples. But okay, I'll give you a few, all right? And you're going to think these are silly. But when our family transitioned and moved to Connecticut from the West Coast, it was, and I've said this so many times before, it was painful, it was confusing, it was such a deep sense of loss and displacement. It was disorienting on every level. I mean, in every way except for my marriage and my children. But even my relationship with my children was changing because they were two in college and one coming into her teen years. And so everything changed. It felt like overnight everything changed. So it was a very disorienting experience. Even though I was surrounded by people that loved me in Connecticut, I identify with verse 7 in this sense. I needed God to assure me in whatever way he could that I did the right thing and that this path was pre-planned, okay? So when I found out about the financial problems in the church, when I found out about all the leaks and the disrepairs, when I found out about the past brokenness of hurting hearts and people that were mistreated and disappointment and failed leadership, when I found out about the wounds that still existed, all of these things, and when I was going through the loneliness or the displacement, I needed, I call it pinholes. I felt like I was in darkness. I just needed a pinhole of light. Like God, give me one little pinhole of light. Well, he did that in lots of ways. One of the primary ways he did that is people started trusting Christ as Savior. We started seeing people saved. And so, but one of the first people that reached out to me that expressed that they had trusted Christ as Savior when I got to Connecticut was somebody that had by God's pure providence connected with some media that I had produced on the West Coast, and they were waiting for us to move to Connecticut. I mean, it was just the strangest moment to hear that story. It was like God pre-paved that prepared ahead of time that appointment for me. I remember not just seeing people saved. I remember one day taking a walk over in Essex. We were walking along the Connecticut River. And I remember, this one puts a lump in my throat. It's going to be silly to you. But I remember seeing some boys sitting on a bank of the river, of a little cove, and they had some string heading out into the water. And they had a big bucket there, and they were sitting there, two or three little brothers pulling on these strings. And I stopped. I looked at my wife. I said, I think those boys are crabbing. I grew up doing that at my grandparents' home in Severna Park, Maryland. And so I ran over to where those little boys were, and I said, hey, are you guys crabbing? And they said, yeah. I go, what kind of crabs are you catching? And they said, blue crabs. And I went, oh, blue crabs? We could catch blue crabs in Connecticut? I got big tears in my eyes. I looked at my wife. I said, oh, man, only God could do that. I mean, I had no clue. You know, I looked in their bucket. There were blue crabs there, and I just was like, oh, my goodness. It was like, now that's going to be silly to you, but to me it was like God saying, there's a pinhole, there's a little blessing. One day my brother Matt was visiting. It was, I don't know, maybe within our first year here. And my brother Matt stopped by an Italian bakery around the corner from where we live. I had never been in there. And he comes up to the house with a little white box. He said, hey, I got something for you. I said, what's that? He hands me the box. I figured, it said bakery on the front. I figured he got some cookies or a cupcake. I opened it up. There were angel wings. Now, if you live on the East Coast in Connecticut, you're used to going to Italian bakeries. You know what angel wings are. I hadn't seen one of those since I was probably 12 or 15 years old. And again, it was just God saying, hey, here's a simple blessing. Here's a simple blessing. Here's a little pinhole of here. He just kept letting me know day by day, week by week, I'm here. I know what will delight your heart. I know how to bless you. I know how to be with you. I know how to guide you. And he answered the cry of verse 7. It was as I was saying, God, I'm crying out to you with my voice. I'm bringing my burdens to you. God, have mercy on me and answer me. And if you can't do what I'm asking, at least show me that you're listening. And over and over and over, he showed me that he was listening. Now, my friend, if you will cry out to God, he may or may not answer your prayer in terms of he may not do what you're asking him to do, but I tell you what he will do if you ask. He'll let you know he's listening. And he'll do that in some personal way that only you will know, okay? And you'll share it with somebody else and it'll sound silly, okay? But you will know that was God. Okay, because only God could have known what that meant to you in that moment. sometimes I'll write, like I wrote an email this morning to the church family, and I got an email back, and I usually don't get a lot of emails back from those. I do appreciate it when I get them, but not a lot of people send an email back. But a lady from our church family sent me back an email this morning, and she said that she was literally sitting in tears reading that email. Now, here's what's strange about it, okay? I wrote the email this morning, and I don't know, it was maybe 8:30 or 9 when I sent it, but I thought, I almost didn't send it. I thought, I don't think this is worth sending. I reread it, I tried to proofread it. I make a lot of typos, so I tried to proofread it, and I thought, well, maybe it'll be a blessing to somebody, And I clicked send anyway. And I thought, well, most people don't have time to read this, and maybe I'm annoying them by sending another email. There's always those questions and doubts in the back of my mind. But I thought, no, maybe it'll encourage somebody. And then pretty quickly, a couple of emails came back. Wow, I really needed this today. And here's my point. I didn't feel like there was anything special about that particular email, to the point that I almost didn't send it. But you know what? God used it to give somebody some assurance right when they needed it. And that's how God does it. God will show up when you need him, and he will assure you that he is listening to you, and he is doing good